Have you ever had a moment when a single sentence changes everything you thought you knew about your family? Because for me, that moment came at Thanksgiving over mashed potatoes and cranberry sauce when my billionaire grandpa smiled across the table and said, "Glad you're enjoying the college fund?" Everyone laughed. Everyone except me. I froze, fork halfway to my mouth, staring at him. "What college fund?" I asked. The room went quiet. I swear you could hear the hum of the fridge from the kitchen. Grandpa's smile faded for half a second, then returned like he had said something funny and realized no one else got the joke. "Oh, you know," he said casually, waving his hand, "the fund your parents set up for you years ago. The one I helped match." My mother's hand tightened around her wine glass. My father cleared his throat and said, "Dad, let's not talk about money at the table." But I was already staring at them. I had spent the last 5 years paying off student loans, juggling 2 jobs, and barely surviving college on instant noodles and caffeine pills. I had begged them for help back then, even a few $100s to cover textbooks. And they told me, "You need to learn responsibility." "Wait," I said, voice cracking a little. "What fund?" Grandpa looked confused now. "The one with your name on it. The one that was supposed to grow until you graduated." He turned to my parents, still smiling, but now there was something sharper in his tone. "You did set it up, right?" My mom's lips pressed into a line. "Of course, Dad. But things got complicated over the years. We had to move money around for family expenses." I felt like the air was getting thinner. "What kind of expenses?" I asked, my voice trembling. My mom didn't answer. My dad cut in. "That's enough, Emily. This is Thanksgiving. Don't ruin the mood." Ruin the mood? My entire life felt like it had been flipped inside out. Grandpa looked between us, frowning now. "Emily, you mean to tell me you did not use that money for college?" I shook my head slowly. My chest burned. "No, I did not even know it existed." He sat back, eyes narrowing. "That's strange. Because I wired them $250,000 when you were 18, said it was for your tuition and living expenses. Even told them I would double it if it was used right." I heard a glass clink. My mother's hand was shaking. My father's face turned red. "Dad, that was years ago. We talked about it." "No," Grandpa said sharply. "We did not." The rest of the dinner was a blur. My aunt tried to change the subject to her vacation in Maui. My cousins whispered to each other. I sat there staring at my plate, while my parents acted like nothing had happened. When we got home, I confronted them. "Where's the money?" I demanded. My dad sighed, loosening his tie like I was a nuisance. "Emily, it's gone. That's all you need to know." "Gone? How? It was supposed to be for me." Mom snapped then. "You think you are the only one with needs? You have no idea what it costs to keep this family afloat. You think the house, the cars, your little vacations just appeared out of thin air?" I stepped back. "So you used it." She didn't deny it. She just looked away. That night, I could not sleep. I lay awake staring at the ceiling, every memory replaying in my head. The nights I skipped meals, the loans I signed, the shifts I picked up at the diner while my friends studied. All that time, my parents had been sitting on money meant for me. I wanted to scream. But more than that, I wanted answers. The next morning, I drove to Grandpa's estate. His assistant let me in, and when he saw me standing there, his expression softened. "I thought something was wrong," he said quietly. I told him everything, every single detail. The debt, the loans, the arguments. The way my parents had acted like I was ungrateful every time I asked for help. He didn't say a word for a full minute. Then he stood up, walked to his desk, and pulled out a thick folder. "Emily, I am going to show you something." Inside were old transfer receipts, emails, and correspondence between him and my father. I could see my name typed in the subject lines. "College fund, transfer confirmation. Emily's education account update." The numbers made my head spin. $250,000 initial transfer, $250,000 match, another $100,000 for expenses, almost $600,000 in total. He looked at me sadly. "I trusted them. I wanted you to have what I never did, a clean start. I thought they were doing the right thing." I felt my throat close. "Grandpa, what happens now?" He sighed. "Now I fix it." That evening, my parents called me repeatedly. I ignored them. I knew Grandpa must have called them already. The next day, he invited me over again, but this time his lawyer was there. He had already drawn up new documents. I sat in silence while the lawyer explained that Grandpa was revising his estate plan, removing my parents from primary inheritance, and setting up a new trust in my name, one they could never touch. When I got home, Mom was waiting at my door. Her eyes were red, her makeup smudged. "How could you do this to us?" she cried. "Do what?" I asked coldly. "You told him. You ruined everything." I stared at her for a long time. "You ruined it when you stole from me." She flinched like I slapped her. Dad came out from the car, voice booming. "You think you can just take what's ours? What's yours?" I laughed bitterly. That money was mine. My education. My future. For a moment, no one said anything. Then Dad's expression shifted, from anger to something darker. You are making a big mistake, Emily. You think he will live forever? When he is gone, you will have no one. And you will come crawling back. I did not answer. I just walked inside and locked the door behind me. That week was chaos. The entire family found out. Some cousins sided with me. Others called me greedy. My parents sent long texts about how family should stay together. And you are tearing us apart. But I was done being the obedient daughter. A week later, Grandpa called again. Emily, there is something else, he said. I want you to help me manage the new scholarship program. For kids like you, who worked for their dreams even when others betrayed them. My throat tightened. You really want me to do that? He smiled. Who else could I trust? I felt something shift inside me. For years, I believed my worth depended on their approval. My parents' smiles, their validation. But now, sitting in Grandpa's office, I realized I had never needed it. Still, I could not shake the anger completely. I wanted them to understand the pain they caused. The humiliation. So I planned something. Something quiet. The next month, Grandpa hosted his annual holiday dinner. Everyone was invited, including my parents. When they arrived, they looked smug, pretending nothing had happened. My mom wore pearls. My dad handed out fake smiles. Then Grandpa stood up for a toast. Before we begin, I want to make a special announcement, he said. This year, I am proud to introduce someone new, the director of the Hughes Scholarship Foundation, my granddaughter Emily. Applause filled the room. Cameras flashed. My parents' smiles froze. I stepped forward, heart pounding, and took the microphone. Thank you, Grandpa, I said. This foundation is about second chances, for those who were denied them by people they trusted most. I looked directly at my parents. They dropped their gaze. The room was silent for a few seconds. Then Grandpa clapped. That is my girl, he said proudly. That night, as everyone mingled, I saw my mother slip outside to the patio. I followed her. She turned when she heard me. You embarrassed us, she said, her voice trembling. No, I said softly. You embarrassed yourselves. She looked like she wanted to say something else. But she just shook her head and walked away. When I turned back toward the glass doors, I caught Grandpa watching me. He smiled. Not the playful kind he used at dinner tables, but the knowing kind. The kind that said, I see you. And I am proud. And for the first time in my life, I felt free. But what I did not know was that my parents were not done yet. They still had one more trick up their sleeve. One that would push me to the edge, test everything I had learned, and force me to choose between revenge and forgiveness. Because some people only understand loss when you take away what they love most. 2 months passed after the holiday dinner, and I thought everything had finally settled. I had started working full-time at Grandpa's foundation, running programs, reviewing scholarship applications, and traveling with him to meet donors. For the first time in my life, I was proud of myself. I felt like I belonged somewhere, but peace never lasts long in my family. It started with small things, missing mail, strange charges on my credit card, and calls from the bank asking if I had authorized certain transactions. At first, I thought it was some kind of clerical mistake. Then I got an email from my mortgage company saying my payment was declined. That made no sense. I had more than enough in my account. When I called the bank, they told me something that made my blood run cold. Someone had tried to move money from my account into another one under my mother's name. The transfer had been flagged and stopped. But it was clear someone had access to my personal details. I felt that old mix of anger and betrayal rise again. I knew it was them. My parents. That night, I sat on the floor of my living room, staring at the bank statement. My hands were shaking. I thought of all the years I had tried to protect their image in my head, to believe that maybe they had made a mistake with the college fund. But this wasn't a mistake. This was war. I called Grandpa immediately. When he picked up, his voice was calm as always. Emily? They're trying to steal from me again, I said. They have my information. They're still going after my accounts. He was silent for a moment. Then he said, do not worry. I will handle it. The next morning, his lawyer called. Grandpa had frozen every shared financial record my parents had with any of his businesses or trusts. They didn't know it yet, but their financial ties to his empire were about to vanish. 3 days later, I got a text from Mom. Congratulations, Emily. You've turned your grandfather against us. Hope you're proud of yourself. I stared at the message, my chest tight. There was no apology, no remorse, just blame. Then came Dad's voicemail, the one I'll never forget. You think this is over? You think you can steal our father away from us? You don't know what you've started, Emily. I didn't respond. I just saved it. 2 weeks later, Grandpa invited me to lunch at his favorite country club. He looked tired but satisfied. They came to see me, he said quietly, stirring his coffee. Begging, crying, making excuses. I told them the truth, you chose integrity. They chose greed. He paused, looking out the window. I think it's time you know something else. He opened his briefcase and handed me another folder. Inside were documents showing that the House my parents lived in, the one they always bragged about owning, was still technically under his name. He had been letting them live there rent-free for years. They always said it was theirs, I said softly. He nodded. They never paid a cent for it. He leaned closer. I'm signing it over to you. Quietly. They won't know until the papers are finalized. My heart pounded. Grandpa, I can't. He raised a hand. You can. Because you earned it. And because it's time they learn what accountability feels like. A month later, I got the call from the lawyer. The property transfer was complete. I was the new legal owner of my parents' house. I didn't tell them, not yet. Then one rainy Thursday evening, I got another message from Mom. Dad's in the hospital. He's asking for you. For a moment, my heart softened. No matter what had happened, he was still my father. I drove to the hospital, the windshield wipers thudding against the storm. When I walked into the room, he looked small, fragile, like all his anger had burned out of him. He smiled weakly. Emily. Dad, I said quietly. What happened? Stress, he muttered. All this fighting. All this mess. It's killing me. I sat down. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The machines beeped softly beside him. Then he said, You could fix this, you know. Just tell your grandfather you forgive us. Tell him to restore what's ours. I blinked. What's yours? He sighed. You're his favorite now. He'll do anything for you. You could help us. We're still your family. I stared at him, trying to find even a trace of regret in his face. But there was none. Just desperation. I stood up. Family doesn't steal from each other, Dad. You lost that right. His face twisted. You've become just like him, cold, controlling, arrogant. I turned to leave, but his words followed me out the door. You'll regret this, Emily. Blood is blood. You'll see. That night, I couldn't sleep. His words echoed in my mind. But the next morning, I made my choice. I called the lawyer. It's time, I said. The following week, eviction notices were quietly delivered to my parents' address. They had 60 days to vacate the property. It didn't take long before my phone started ringing nonstop. Mom, Dad, even my sister. Everyone called, begging, threatening, crying. I didn't answer. I knew if I did, I'd break. But one evening, my phone buzzed again. It was Grandpa. He said simply, I know what you did. My stomach dropped. You're angry? He chuckled softly. No, I'm proud. You did what I couldn't. You stood up to them. There was a pause. Then his tone changed, gentle but firm. But Emily, do not let revenge define you. It's a fire that burns both sides. I didn't respond. I just listened to his voice. A week later, I drove past their house. The for sale sign was already up. The windows were dark. For the first time in my life, that house didn't feel like home. It felt like a shell, hollow, full of ghosts. I parked down the street, watching as my mother stepped out with a suitcase. She looked older, smaller. Dad followed behind, his shoulders hunched. For a brief moment, guilt twisted inside me. Then I remembered the nights I cried myself to sleep. The loans I took, the lies they told, the money they stole. They chose this. Months passed. Life moved on. I focused on my work, expanding the foundation, helping hundreds of students who reminded me of myself. Kids who were smart, hardworking, but betrayed by the people who should have protected them. Grandpa's health began to decline slowly. Some days he was sharp and witty. Others, he barely remembered what day it was. I visited him every weekend, reading to him, showing him pictures of the students we helped. One afternoon, he took my hand and whispered, Promise me one thing. Emily, promise me you'll never let greed win in your heart. I nodded. I promise. When he passed away 3 months later, the will was simple. Everything, his businesses, his estate, his assets, was divided equally between his charitable foundations. The rest went into the scholarship trust with me as executor. My parents showed up at the funeral, dressed in black, heads bowed. We didn't speak. After the service, Mom approached me. Emily, she said softly, we're sorry. For everything. I looked at her for a long time. You're sorry because you lost, I said quietly. Not because you hurt me. She didn't deny it. She just looked away, eyes full of tears that didn't look real anymore. That night, after everyone left, I stood alone by Grandpa's grave. The wind was cold, carrying the smell of rain. I whispered, It's over, Grandpa. I kept my promise. But deep down, I knew something had changed in me forever. Revenge had felt like justice. But it also left scars. Months later, I received a letter from my mother. It wasn't long, just a single paragraph. She said she and Dad had moved to another state, that they were starting over. At the end, she wrote, We still love you, even if you can't love us. I folded the letter and set it on my desk. I didn't reply. That night, as I closed my eyes, I remembered Grandpa's voice, his warnings, his kindness, his quiet wisdom. And for the first time, I realized that revenge wasn't the real ending of my story. Survival was. Because some wounds never heal. They just teach you how to live differently. The next morning, I visited the foundation's new campus, built with funds Grandpa left behind. I watched as students walked in, laughing, hopeful. I smiled. One of the girls asked, "Miss Hughes, why did you start this foundation?" I looked at her and said, "Because sometimes family doesn't save you. You have to save yourself." And as I walked back to my car, the sun breaking through the clouds, I felt something I hadn't in years: peace. The past could stay buried. The lies, the betrayal, the anger, all of it was behind me. But as I drove away, one thought lingered, quiet but unshakable. Sometimes the people who break you are the reason you become strong enough to never need them again. And that was the real revenge.